All right, now we're here. Let me just go live here too. All right, we're live on Twitter as well. So, I'm gonna be continuing working on the dragon puppet. So, in case you missed it last time, this is about where we are. I just drew eyes on there to make it a little bit more clear of the direction that that we're going in. But there he is. There's his face. He's got his nice cheeks in there, and I found out some things that I found out why this mouth is so large. I remembered that I actually, if you look back at the original sculpture that I didn't even have a bottom jaw on it. This is just what would have been the bottom of the top of the mouth, which you could argue is the same thing. So one thing I have to do is cut that down a little bit. Easy thing. But before I do that, I'm going to put the top mouth plate in, and then we're going to also create a bottom mouth plate, and then we're going to be in business. So we're going to do that right now. Luckily, I already made a top mouth plate pattern for this dragon, and I got some other ideas that we're going to do with it as well. So to start off, we're going to use one of my favorite things to use for a puppet mouth, which is plastic from a bin. Very durable, easy to come by, water resistant, and cheap, which is nice. Cheap as in inexpensive, not cheap in build quality. So for people on Facebook, they get the down view as well, which is nice. I'm just going to trace this out. Make sure I line up these notches. Now I'm also, so today what I'm hoping to do is finish the top and bottom mouth plate, as well as potentially covering the belly, which is going to be a big important aspect of this build and the design of the character overall. Let me just get my clippers here. And we will cut this out. Now this character has such a long mouth, it's going to be interesting to cover, but I've got some fancy ideas for how we're going to achieve that as well. And also, I've been looking at so many different references for this character, and I want to get it looking as nicely as I can, but sometimes he's got kind of a pointed mouth, other times it's not pointed. Some of it looks a lot wider, some of it looks a bit more narrow, but we're going to find the perfect blend of all these looks. Okay, so that looks pretty good for that. For our mouth plate, I'm going to gently sand these edges. I'm going to sand this edge as well. Give it better connection to the foam. Okay, and I'll sand this side too a little bit. Okay, now looking at this, I want to just make sure that this all lines up nicely and that there's going to be enough room for the hand on the inside. So let me feel that around. Feels pretty good. It's a little bit on the snug side, especially since I know Dan's got a larger hand. So maybe I'm going to sand a little bit more space into there, inside of this mouth. That should make it a little bit better. Alright, now let's glue this bad Johnny in. Hey Google, turn on shop vent.
Okay, turning on the shop vent.
Okay, make sure you glue in a well-ventilated area. Okay. Now let's put some glue on this foam. Okay, now let's carefully set that in. And I want to make sure I line up these notches that I have drawn in there. Okay, that is looking pretty good. Got that top one in. I'm really liking the way that's fitting in. Now we need to do the bottom one, but we also need to trim that mouth down a little bit. Now looking at this photo from the side, it's quite a bit shorter than, look at that. Let me get a pencil. If this was to shut, it's shut like that. So that's, you know, I would say this is about halfway. So it's about a fourth shorter. So let me start cutting that out. And it's a little bit more narrow. So let me see here. I think this dart here is a good spot to do it. I don't want it to be too narrow. I think that will do. liking that. I am liking that a lot. Okay, good. Now, will this pattern piece here work for it is the question. It's looking good there. If that goes to there, look at that, it's about the same size. I'm going to take it in about a ½ an inch all the way around. I think this will work as a pattern. But I want to, should I go ½ inch all the way around or just toward the front? I'm going to go ½ inch in toward the front. Okay. So if I do this, it'll have an end in about the same spot. Oh, but I want it to go just as long though, I think, right? Yeah, I don't want it to be shorter. How's that look? Well, maybe I do need it shorter. Yeah, it looks like I do. Okay. With the scissors. Didn't I just use them? Oh, they fell. Okay. If anyone has any questions about anything, feel free to let me know. I can answer them as we go. Okay. That looks good to me. Alright, we're coming along here. We have the bottom mouth plate, top mouth plate is on, and it is coming along. Rough it up for the glue. Top notch is marked still. Okay. Now we will stick this in. Good, good, good. Okay. we go. Look at that. Oh my gosh, guys, guess what? It's starting to look like a puppet. Let me switch you around to the front facing. Hey, look at that. We have a puppet. Somewhat. Okay. So, hold on, this glue is not completely cured yet, so I don't want to pull on it too much. But that, okay, so that's there. But now one thing is, which I had planned with this puppet, because of the way the mouth is attached to particularly this L200 foam, I want it to, if you look here on this, let me put you down to the bottom facing. So, if you look at this sketch here, okay, let me zoom in on there for you. Okay. The mouth plate is, on this guy, is completely straight. See that? Perfectly a straight line. If you look, if I draw a straight line from the back here, straight out, look what we have here. This comes down a bit, almost like a little bit like a beak, okay? Now it's a little bit exaggerated because of a couple things. First of all, because the way that this comes up like that, okay? So it's actually more cut in half, probably about to there, okay? So what I'm going to do is just add a little piece for where that beak would continue extending. So let me grab some scrap fabric, and then we will do that. Not scrap fabric, it's actually scrap foam. So, oh, I got a phone call during this live video on the phone. Let's switch to Instagram instead. Okay. Live. Go live. Okay. All right. So that's what we're gonna do right now. So let me back up this camera just a bit. So we're back to where we were. There we go. Okay. So now I'm going to cut those pieces out and attach it just to give them that little bit of a beak. So let me kind of draw it first. Get some foam going. So we're for people on Instagram, we're continuing our Figment build here. We just put the mouth plates in, okay? But now what we want to do is extend the beak below the mouth plate just a little bit, okay? So what I'm going to do is draw that out. And I'm going to start from that dart there, I think. Come around to there. Let me see here. What if I draw this down like that? That looks good to me. So that's the little shape that I need, okay? So let me cut this and trace it. So I'm going to cut this front part at an angle, which will make it easier to glue. And this part I'm just going to do straight. There it is. Now I'll flip this over and trace it again. Hello to anyone who is at Comic-Con. Hope you are enjoying it. I was really hoping to go this year, but thank goodness I wasn't able to get my tickets because with the baby coming now, which we didn't know at that time, there's no way I would have been able to go. So, I hope you're having fun. One day I'll go. One day I will go. So, look at that. Now we have what's going to be the front of the beak. Okay? Let me glue this together first. The ventilation is on. If you're on Facebook, you saw me do it earlier. Probably what you hear in the background, that little noise. looks like we have some comments here. Let me check. What do we use for the mouth plate? If you're watching from the beginning, we were using same thing that I almost always use. This is from a bin, a plastic bin. Very reasonable, very won't absorb moisture. One bin you can probably get for like somewhere between $5 to $10 at a local store, and you'll be able to get a ton of puppets out of it. Oh, look at that! Look at how nice that is going to look. Oh, that just changes the silhouette so much. Yeah, Chris says, I'm not using my lip curl on the mouth plate. No, I'm not. I'm not on this one at all, because this is the L200. You can't curl that foam the same way. You can't do it the same way. And I didn't do it for the bottom because I kind of wanted it to match the top. So, depending on the design of the character that you're doing, that's what I do. I do the lip curl if I'm doing a humanoid type character, which this couldn't be further from what that is. Okay. Oh my gosh. Don't you love it? So like sometimes you're working on something and then it's kind of like, I'm not quite sure how this is going. Like I'm not quite as proud of this as I was as I'd like to be. And then sometimes you just hit a groove or a good spot where you're like, oh man, it's actually starting to come together. That's where I am with this. Because last week when I was working on this, I'm just like, it's looking okay. But now I'm really excited about it. Hoping to get to covering the belly today as well. Looks like we got some Instagram comments too. Someone asked, is it more exciting? Oh my gosh. Hold on. We got a phone call interrupting the live stream. Okay, we're back. Someone asked, is it more exciting to build something like this, character like Figment, or an original character? It is way more exciting for me to build my own character. 1,000 times more exciting. And actually this is something I wanted to bring up on the podcast soon, is about building something like this. Because it's different than building a replica, okay? Like a replica puppet. You'll never see me doing puppet replicas of like the Muppets or anything like that. Again, something I want to bring up as a topic on the podcast is there is a difference when you change the medium. It's not as bad, if that makes any sense. Like if you make a puppet of another puppet character, something's just strange about that. Like if there's not enough change, you know? Whereas if you, like one thing that I've always wanted to do is do a puppet of Buzz Lightyear, okay? That would be so, actually I bought materials to do it, okay, years ago. That would be so cool, because I'm taking something, an animated character, and making a puppet out of it. So there's definitely a lot of artistry to figuring that out and making it interesting. Whereas again, if I was to make a Kermit puppet or a Elmo puppet, like that would there's just not much, I can't think of the word for it, not much translation that you're doing as an artist. But either way, so that's kind of what the Figment is too, because it's not traditionally a puppet, at least not in this style of building. I think the other puppet version that did exist was cast out of silicone or latex, which is a completely different look and feel. So that's what makes this a little bit exciting for me. So let's look at our line. So this is just a little bit too pointed, I'd say. So let me just take a little bit of the edge off and sand it down. Hey, my buddy Matt just came in. Matt Matt, I don't know if I've ever been able to pronounce your last name. Matt Skins? I'll call it Matt Skins. Skeins. He's an amazing artist. Super nice guy. He designed the logo for NASA that they're using for their 60th anniversary, and I think he designed some other ones for them as well. He's an amazing artist. You should definitely check out his stuff. Okay, this is looking quite nice. I'll tell you though, man, adding this little beak here is changing the whole silhouette of that mouth in a really nice way. And that seam that you're seeing there, you won't see it once it's covered, okay? And then adding the nostrils here and here, that's going to be after it's covered, is going to really change this big time. So from people who are checking in, some things that we did in the last, since the last Instagram update at least, we have these eyebrow ridges, which have changed the profile of the head. These cheeks, which I think I posted pictures of them on Instagram. We have the mouth plate in, and this little beak extension, which kind of changes the silhouette as well, which is going to be really nice. So what I've decided to do to go as far as covering this thing is a couple things. First of all, I'm going to do it in two major pieces, of course, the belly and the rest of it. And I think I've decided, a lot of time I kind of attach the front and back together and then put it on the character. In this one, I'm pretty sure what I'm going to do is construct the belly out of fabric and then attach the belly separately and then do the rest of the patterning. Because of the way that the ribs are in this character, there's some special techniques I want to do to really get that look. I picked out the eyes as well. They have to be painted. Here they are. Gonna fit in right there really nicely. Gotta paint those yellow and do some more things. But why don't I start patterning that belly now? Let me get some fabric here. Hold on a second. Here it is. Okay. So now I gotta take a little bit of liberty with this too, because it goes all the way up to the neck, but it's not the bottom chin, which is what I would have done if I designed it, probably. So I'm gonna go up as high as I can, without making it look too awkward, hopefully. So get the stretch of the fabric going across. Okay. So. 28 inches. Go a little extra. Okay. Pin this in so it doesn't slide around on me. Getting it as flat as possible. Someone asked what would I recommend for an inanimate object if you're making a puppet. Let's say, I think his example is if you want to make a puppet of like a top hat. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. you'd have to design it first. Depending on how you designed that, there's a bunch of different ways you could do it. It's probably not the answer you wanted, but it's the most realistic answer, I think, unfortunately. Yeah, I'd have to see a design really to give any recommendations on that. Okay. This tail is getting so annoying. Okay. Clean this up a little bit. Oh gosh. This is gonna look so nice. I'm so excited about it. Another question. How do you remain patient while building? I feel like I always rush through builds and then I'm upset with the final product. What I do instead of waiting to be upset with the final product, I get upset as I go. So if I see something I'm upset about, I fix it before it makes me more upset, because it's going to affect the next part of the project that I do as well. So like if I don't like how I did the foam on this, that means that my fabric work's probably not going to be as well executed either, because each step builds off of the next step. So it's like a margin of error. Like if you have like, a quarter inch of error in one thing, and then you ignore it and keep going, and then the next step you have a quarter inch of error, and then another step later you have a quarter inch of error, and another step later, all of a sudden you're 2 inches off, okay? So it all builds up off of it, off of the next thing. So you want to try to be as precise as you can. And that being said, once you've been doing it for a while, you know where you can and can't cut corners. Not even cutting corners as much as just shortcuts. And actually routines too. Like if I draw a line on something, some people might wonder, well, should I cut to the inside of this line, on the line, or on the outside? Whereas me, I have a standard for myself that I do, is I always cut to the inside. So I don't even have to think about it later. So knowing your own procedures is helpful as well. But that's pretty good, except for, whoa, this dart is not in the center. So let me center that up. Oh man. Speaking of margin of error, I was a little too scissor happy when I was cutting that. There we go. I can fix that. Okay, so there we have this guy here. So now I'm going to start drawing out that belly. I believe I patterned it in a way that kind of matched. Yeah, I did. Let me get my marker. Hard to say. afraid that I might be going too high up. Well, it'll look nice either way. Sometimes you guys gotta cut your losses too, and just make sure you just do it. Make it look, you know, kind of like people who draw. You know, like people have so many different styles of drawing. You know, if we had like Brian Froud draw this character versus Walt Disney draw this character, they'd look completely different, and they'd both look right in the worlds that they drew it in. So that's another thing you want to keep in mind too, is that, like, the bigger picture of what you're doing. Trying to get Brian Froud on the podcast, so if anyone has any connections, I'm trying to reach out to him. Belly going. Okay. How does that look? I think this is a little bit. It's looking pretty good. I'm gonna have to true up this pattern a little bit because I can tell it's a little lopsided, but that's something I can fix. Okay, that looks good to me. Let's count these. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. Some of these lines I'm going to transfer. There's one right there. God, this tail is driving me nuts. I'm about to chop off this tail and glue it back on later, because it is really just driving me nuts. Okay, that looks good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's not even. That spacing is not good. If I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. That'll do. Sometimes you gotta trust your eye. Okay, gonna mark some notches now. So this will go to that notch. go. Let me take off this pattern. Okay. Let me just put these darts in. All right, let's make the pattern. How's that? Get it all? Got it. Okay. Alrighty. Let me just get these notches drawn in. Missed one notch. There we go. Alright, so we have this pattern just about ready to go. I'm just gonna cut this out, then true it up. After it's trued up, we can start putting it together. That is looking good. Alright, now, one more time. Looks like we have another question here. Okay, yeah, someone's asking what the name of the white foam is. It is L200. You can also use EVA foam. It's pretty much the same stuff. Get my tracing wheel. Sorry, Cam. Cam, I think this is one of the first times you're in one of my live streams while it's live. He says he wants me to work on his puppet first. Sorry, you have to wait in line. The line is growing too, unfortunately. Alrighty, so that looks good. We've got the notches lined up. Now, to true it up, what you do is you flip it over, trace it again, and then the answer, the true answer, is right in the middle. So, you line up. Oh, how do I want to line this up? That's what I'll do. I'll line up the bottom corners. Is that right? Oh, I see. Yes, that is correct. Okay. Trace these lines again, and the answer will be in the middle, it said. Okay. So now I'll use the blue pencil to find true line. Aaron asked if I ever use pattern weights to keep the pattern from curling and moving around. I do, but I lose them fast and easily, so I'm pretty used to working without them as well. But I use them when I can, and or I use other things around my shop as weights too, so. Pretty spot on there. Nice, 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 nice. Okay, so this line looks right. That looks right. Go in the middle there. There we go. Now we have a nice belly pattern. Fabric one. So, really nice. So let me just start. There we go. Okay. Now there we have our belly pattern that fits right there, just right. Let me see here. Yeah, right there. Good, 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 good. Okay. Alright, well, I'm going to prep some fabric, and I'll probably be back in a little bit, so I will see you guys soon.